So we want to now look at the Keynesian multiplier, which shows us the change in output when any autonomous component of aggregate demand changes. Now, an autonomous component of aggregate demand would be one which does not depend upon output or income. So now let's explore the government spending multiplier, where we want to see the change in output due to a change in autonomous government spending. Let's assume it originally at point A, and then government spending increases by $100. So as government spending increases by $100, aggregate demand increases by $100. Since government spending is a direct component of aggregate demand, where ED is C plus I plus G. So here, as on the left-hand side, G increases by $100, as on the right-hand side, G increases by $100, on the left-hand side, ED increases by $100. So as a result of this, we move from our original point A to the new point B. Now as the economy is at point B, aggregate demand at point B given to us as ED1 exceeds output at point B, which is Y naught. So as a result of this, there is excess demand at point B. So inventories are going to go down and output is going to increase until we get to point C. Now, as output or income is increasing, this will also cause consumption to increase because consumption depends upon income. But we know okay, consumption would not increase by $100, but it would increase by MPC times 100 because MPC tells us the change in consumption due to $1 increase in disposable income. As C is given to us as A plus MPC times Y minus T. So in this case, as income increases by 100, consumption is going to increase by MPC times 100. So now what happens is, as consumption increases by MPC times 100, so this will cause aggregate demand to also increase by MPC times 100 because consumption, like government spending, is a direct component of aggregate demand, where aggregate demand is consumption plus I plus G. So again, on the right-hand side, we have C that is now not going up by 100, but by MPC times 100. So as a result of this, aggregate demand on the left-hand side also goes up by MPC times 100. So as aggregate demand increases, now the economy moves from point C to point D. Now, when we're at point D, again, what we see is aggregate demand at point D, which is given to us as ED2, exceeds output at point D, which is given to us as Y1, which is equal to AD1. How do we know that? We know that because point C lies on the 45-degree line. So its x-axis value and y-axis value is the same. So if the y-axis value is AD1 for point C, then its x-axis value, which is Y1, is also equal to AD1. So we can see that at point D, aggregate demand, which is AD2, exceeds output, which is Y1. So again, we have a case of an excess demand at point D, just like we had at point B. So as a result of this, inventories are going to go down and output is going to increase until we come back to point D. And so output will also increase by MPC times 100 as aggregate demand increases by MPC times 100. So now as output increases, this will again cause consumption to increase. But now again, remember, consumption does not increase by the full amount of output or income. It increases by MPC times that change in output or income. So over here, as output increases by MPC times 100, so consumption is going to increase by MPC times 100, right? So it's going to increase by MPC square 100 because now the total increase in output is MPC times 100. So the increase in consumption is going to be MPC times this change in output. So it's going to turn out to be MPC square times 100. So as a result of this, this entire process is now going to repeat like this. Now, because consumption is increasing, so this will again cause aggregate demand to increase, and this entire process repeats until we move back to the new equilibrium value point Z. So the idea over here is the total change in output that we observe is going to be greater than the initial increase in government expenditure that we had of $100. Because the increase in government expenditure has both a direct effect, right? Where since it's a component of aggregate demand, it's directly going to cause aggregate demand to increase, which we saw as a movement from point A to B. But there's also an indirect effect because as aggregate demand increases, income increases, which causes consumption to increase, and this process continues until we move back to a new equilibrium value. And eventually this process will stop because MPC is a value that lies between 0 to 1. So every time that increase that we're going to see is going to become smaller and smaller.